Mayor Pro Tem Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Scott.
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton. Councilmember Albright.
Here.
Councilmember Mosley. Councilmember Lewis.
Here.
Councilmember Williamson.
Here.
Councilmember Frank.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Again, if you want to speak, please sign your name on the sheets in the back. And if you have a cell phone, I'd ask that you either turn it off or mute it at this time. Our public hearing to discuss a potential tax abatement agreement with ZeoGas LLC, and our city attorney Val Tizano will be doing the presentation, the public hearing. And all of you all that are here that wish to speak will have an opportunity to do that once we go to the audience.
I have a very brief PowerPoint that explains our proposed tax abatement policy, as well as the status of the law. So if you bear with me, I'll be as brief as possible. But basically, this is it's listed up here, and we can also get anyone who's interested copies of that. If you'd like to leave your email address in the back, we can also email the PowerPoint to you. Additional documents that I have that can be emailed are the tax abatement policies of basically all of the industrial areas, cities with industrial areas around Texas. So if I go ahead and begin, basically I want to talk about our current tax abatement policy, and again I'll be as brief as possible. But in February of 2014, the City of Port Arthur adopted resolution number 14-114. This is our uniform tax abatement policy. This policy is valid for the term of March 9th, 2014, and it will expire on March 9th, 2016. This is required by Chapter 312 of the Texas Property Tax Code. This is the statute. 312 of the Texas Property Tax Code is the statute by which the tax abatement policy is governed in Texas. These guidelines are valid only for a period of 2 years. Now, in the spring of 2014, the Port Arthur City Council appointed a committee to study and make recommendations with regard to tax abatements and expansion agreements as well of companies with existing industrial district agreements. So basically, we looked at two things. We looked at strengthening our policy for tax abatements and strengthening our policy for expansion agreements for IDAs. As some of you may be well aware, in 2013, in December of 2013, we signed approximately 14 industrial district agreements, and we changed some of the determination of how discounts would be afforded to those that we entered into contracts with. Basically, in the spring of 2014, this change, this policy review is based upon concerns expressed by Port Arthur citizens related to Port Arthur vendors and employment of Port Arthur citizens. We wanted to do something where our tax abatement policy and our expansion agreements, which some of them are now about to be brought to council for consideration, would look at those two issues, employment and use of Port Arthur vendors. What is a tax abatement? I think we need to back up and talk about that. Local governments use tax abatements to attract new industry and commercial enterprises and to encourage the retention and development of existing businesses. So basically, this authority is given according to Chapter 312, which is the Property Redevelopment Act that I spoke of a moment ago. The Act requires some very specific things. Let me go down, hold on. Okay. I got it on two different screens, so y'all have to bear with me. Okay. Basically, we use the tax abatement to attract new industry, and this authority, again, is in Chapter 312 of the Texas Property Tax Code. Basically, a governing body of a municipality must elect to become eligible to participate in a tax abatement. A city may not enter into a tax abatement or designate an area as a reinvestment zone until guidelines and criteria governing tax abatement agreements have been adopted. So basically, what we talked about a moment ago about our existing policy, that is the precursor to having any type of agreement. We must have a policy in place, which we do, and we've talked about updating it with the committee. The guidelines must be adopted every 2 years, as we spoke of. and they can only be repealed or amended by a three-fourths vote of the members of the governing body. Okay? Unlike an industrial district agreement, we want to talk about the differences because we have not had very many tax abatements in recent years, but we have quite a few industrial district agreements. Unlike an industrial district agreement, which we call an IDA, the city is entitled to receive property taxes for property located within the city limits. An IDA allows for the city to receive an in lieu of tax payment for property that is located outside of the city limits, which is in our ETJ. So most of the agreements that we have with many of the industries are dealing with the ETJ, and those are industrial district agreements. The payment is made with an agreement not to annex the property. So that is one of the differences with the IDA, because that property is not within the city limit. The city also, with regard to an IDA, one key difference is that the city does not provide any services to companies that have signed these agreements. So we don't provide police or fire protection and things like that. Within the city is required under law to provide all city services, and it is further entitled to 100% of all property taxes owed by a landowner, and that would be for property within the city. So that slide pretty much gives you some differences. A tax abatement agreement is an agreement that limits the increase in the value of property taxes due to improvements or repairs to real property. And that's an important slide. The Property Tax Abatement Act indicates that only property located within a reinvestment zone is eligible for a tax abatement agreement, and this agreement cannot exceed 10 years. Pursuant to Chapter 312, again, the time frame is that it cannot exceed 10 years in length. Okay? Sorry about that. It also requires, and I won't go over all the steps, but they're on here, that there are 7 mandatory steps that must be followed in order to establish a tax abatement agreement. These are the steps that are outlined in the tax code. A summary of those steps are as follows. First, the taxing unit has to pass a resolution stating that it elects to become eligible to participate in tax abatement. The taxing unit, and that would be the city, must establish guidelines and criteria, and that's the process that we're in right now. The taxing unit must deliver in writing, once we have policies and guidelines, which we are in the process of amending. The taxing unit must deliver in writing to the presiding officer of the governing body of each taxing unit that is included in its boundaries real property to be included in the proposed reinvestment zone. You have to have notice, and basically a 7-day notice of its intent to create a reinvestment zone is required, and you're required to have a public hearing. Fourth, they must publish in the newspaper a notice of the public hearing designating a reinvestment zone 7 days prior to the public hearing. Following a public hearing, a city may designate, here I go again, y'all gotta tell me. Following a public hearing, a city may designate an area within the taxing jurisdiction as a tax and abatement reinvestment zone. So that is one of the key components. When we have property that has been, we've gone through the application process, we have to specifically designate that property as a reinvestment zone, and that has to be done by a city ordinance. 7 days before the city enters into a tax abatement agreement, the city must deliver to the presiding officer of each taxing unit in which the property subject to agreement is located a written notice now that they intend to enter into a tax abatement. So there's 2 notice provisions. One, that we intend in creating a reinvestment zone, and the second, that we intend on entering into an agreement. Just real quickly before I get to the last step, it's important to note that school districts are not able to participate in this process. There's another process that they go through. The 7th step is that a city will enter then into a tax abatement agreement with the owner or lessee of real property located within the reinvestment zone. The agreement must be approved by a majority of the members of the governing body of the municipality or other taxing unit. And this must be done at a regularly scheduled meeting when you do your final agreement. Can't be at a special meeting. The final agreement must be at a regular meeting. So these are just some basics. Real quickly, what are the limits of a tax abatement? A tax abatement agreement may provide for an exemption of real property covered by the agreement, but it's only to the extent that its value for that year exceeds the value for the year in which the agreement is executed. An example is if Company X is on a site and that site is valued at $2 million at the time the company enters into the tax abatement with the city. The abatement will be based on the improvements or repairs to the property. Therefore, if the increase is determined to be $500,000, the taxing unit has the authority under the tax code to abate from 1% to 100% of the property tax paid on the $500,000. So you're looking at the abatement being on the increase in value. Okay. At this point, I'll briefly go over the committee recommendations. As we stated, we have a policy in place and we looked at some amendments. The committee was appointed by motion and they studied the tax abatement policies throughout the state. We also consulted with many of the city's financial advisors in order to make an appropriate policy recommendation. The committee determined that it was necessary to include language that would offer an additional incentive for hiring Port Arthur residents and to utilize the Port Arthur Business Enterprise Program. So basically what we have an amount that is being offered for a tax abatement, but you have an additional incentive. So we're going to be talking about two different numbers if the companies will commit to hiring Port Arthur residents and to utilize our Port Arthur Business Enterprise Program. A tax abatement, so the initial tax abatement is available based upon the amount of the investment. So what the committee recommended was that we look at different amounts of an investment that could be made and have different types of agreement based upon the amount of the investment. Moving on to the next slide, and I know this is kind of small print, and as I said, I can email this to anyone who wants to take a further look at it. I didn't put all of the charts, but I wanted to talk about a smaller project, and this is an example of our initial abatement. This is what someone would be eligible for, a company or a property owner rather would be eligible for. For a smaller project, which we consider to be less than $250 million, the initial abatement, and it's important to understand what the initial abatement is, offered as follows. Now this chart does not include the additional incentive offered, but basically if we look around the state and we look at what the standard is on these agreements, you isolate the construction period from the remainder of the calculation. So in a small project, the construction period is limited to 1 year. So basically the abatement percentage on a small project, you would have a 1 year construction period and 75% would be abated. Year one, after construction is over, 50%, year two, 40%, year three, 30%, year four, 20%, year five, 10%. We basically have proposed in the committee that a smaller project would get a 6-year agreement because, again, you're eligible to go up to 10 years. So the chart is based on the amount of the investment and there's a corresponding amount of years for the agreement. This next chart may help us understand where we are today. For a larger project, we have recommended, and that larger project we look at over $1 billion. The initial abatement is offered as follows. And again, this is the chart for the initial abatement. Over $1 billion. This would allow a 10-year agreement. As we stated, we would isolate the construction period. And in this case, the construction period would be limited to 5 years. So in years 1 through 5, there will be a 75% abatement. The first year after construction, 90%, year 2, which was actually, I'll just say the first 5 years, 1 through 5, you're at 75%. Then year 6, which is the first year after construction, 90%. Year 7, 80%. Year 8, 70%. Year 9, 60%. And year 5, 50%. Okay? Now we'll talk about the additional incentives. So that's just the basic overview. I know this is written kind of small, so I'll take my time and read it. There's an additional incentive that has been offered. In an effort to address the concerns regarding the unemployment rate, the committee recommended the following additional incentives. So now these are things that people can do additionally, or a property owner rather can do additionally to have a greater discount. Now, this slide talks about the construction period. During the construction period, a property owner can get an additional 15% discount if, through the reporting process that we have adopted in our industrial district agreements, basically they give us semi-annual reports of where things stand. If 25% of the construction jobs go to Port Arthur residents, they will get an additional 15% off. Additionally, if we look at the Port Arthur Business Enterprise, an additional 10% will be taken off if 4% of the construction costs are basically go to certified Port Arthur Business Enterprises. So basically, if a company were to meet both of these qualifications, during the construction period, they could get the remaining 25% off. So if you look at what I have highlighted at the bottom, if you can read it, by utilizing the original incentive and meeting our hiring requirements, a company would be able to potentially receive a 100% tax abatement during the construction period. Now let's talk about after the construction period. After a construction period, the construction period has been completed. Usually the laptop and the overhead correspond, but not this time. After the construction period is completed, an additional 10% incentive will be given based upon the percentage of permanent jobs. And we're looking at whether the new hires of the company or nested contractors, if those jobs go to Port Arthur residents. And or an additional 10% if 4% of purchases after construction are made from certified Port Arthur Business Enterprises. So basically, after the construction period, this allows for a potential 20% discount over the remainder of the abatement term. Okay, I think there's some additional slides there. Let's see. Let me go back. I think we're having. Hold on. There's some more pages. Hold on. Okay, let me try to get that. Okay, we got hold on. He's going to come and try to get it back on track. There's about 3 more pages, which are probably the most important pages. Okay. I guess I want to back up, hold on, and talk about the 20%. Okay, let's go back to the larger project, and I think we'll be done. Okay, so basically with the larger project, if you look at the 5-year construction period, again, as we stated, if you look at the 5-year construction period and you are able to get the additional 25% discounts, basically during the construction period you will have a 100% abatement, as I stated. Going to the first year after construction, which is year 6, the abatement percentage is already 90. So even if a company decides, or a landowner decides that they do either hire the Port Arthur residents or utilize the PABE. And if you look at year 6, you only have to do one, and that gets you to 100%. So basically, this allows you to get to 100% in year 6. When you're looking at year 7, which is the second year after construction, basically you still have an option of having a 100% abatement if you complete both aspects of the hiring of Port Arthur residents and the utilization of Port Arthur businesses. So basically, the last thing I want to indicate that you don't get until year 9 and year 10 where you're looking at less than 100%. So basically, the committee tried to set something up that would basically put teeth in our agreement. Many years we had things such as best efforts clauses, and we've been instructed that was not satisfactory. So what we have is that you have a certain amount set up as you see on this chart, and if you meet the conditions up front and you report and we verify, then you can get to 100%. So it basically looks like, you know, there's 7 years where a company could easily get to 100%, and then in the remaining years it's still at the 90, 80, and 70%. Finally, I can, again, if anyone wants to look at this PowerPoint in greater detail, I can email it to you. And also we have today, we've reviewed, just to let you know, most of the local areas' tax abatement policies, and we do have that. And we can talk about the industry standard and so forth if you like. Sorry. Also, finally, the last thing that I have is a map here. We asked the proposed property owner, the company that will be giving us the, that we're here for, ZeoGas, we asked the property owner to give us an outline of what property they were talking about in terms of the location. And so we have 2 tracts of land that we're talking about. So if anyone would like to look at it, I believe it's a 250-acre tract and a 450-acre tract. And that is the property that is owned. And one of the things that we talked about before moving forward, we need to be able to have some type of definite indication of where the project will be located, so we can define where our reinvestment zone would be. The last thing that we would say before moving forward, other than having a specifically defined location on that map, the property is currently zoned for agricultural purposes. So the first step we would have to take in going down this road of a tax abatement would be to rezone the property. So basically that's all I have. But if, I know the print is small, and but if you would like a copy of it, I'll be happy to email it to you if you'll leave your email address. Thank you.
I have no lights on right now. City Secretary, you have a letter that you need to read from Councilmember Mosley, who's absent.
Thank you, Mayor. From Stephen Mosley, City Councilman, District 4 of the City of Port Arthur, Texas. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, I will not be able to be in attendance with you tonight supporting your concerns and fears about the proposed ZeoGas project due to a previous engagement that was planned since last year. However, I do want to express my sincere thanks and appreciation for the tremendous input from our citizens in District 4 and supporters throughout the City of Port Arthur. Citizens have made it clear to me by drawing a line in the sand and speaking with a loud and determined voice saying no. No 100% 10-year tax abatements, and no, not in my neighborhood. Enough said. From the beginning of my time on council, I have clearly made it known that any company interested in moving to Port Arthur, Texas, seeking an incentive must first meet the requirements of our abatement policy. And for me, where are you planning to put it? It doesn't get any simpler than that, and anyone who is listening will not be surprised about anything else I say that is relevant. I pray that my colleagues will respect the will of our citizens who have entrusted me with their precious vote of confidence to do what is right and just for them. Otherwise, why did we promise to serve them when we campaigned to get their vote? When our citizens come to City Hall to encourage our council to meet their needs, council must respond in kind and do the will of the people. It's just the right thing to do. Again, I am proud to serve the citizens of District 4 as councilman and wish each of you blessings and goodwill for all the citizens of Port Arthur, Texas, the city by the sea. Sincerely, Stephen A. Mosley, City Councilman, District 4 of the city of Port Arthur, Texas.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis?
Yes, unfortunately, I had to work when they had the meeting at the St. John Church. I worked 12-hour shift, and I was unable to attend the meeting, but I did send the maps by 3 different families. Unfortunately, the weather created a problem, but I had to go back to work at 3 o'clock. And had I been able to attend that meeting, the misinformation would not have spread it. You notice the Port Arthur News. The Port Arthur News had, on the front page, had the location of the ZeoGas. That was false. That was false information. Everything you see in the Sunday's paper on the front page, the location next to the reservoir is false information and it's misleading. Okay, and the representative of ZeoGas, they got some representatives here. I think from a guy from Foster Wheelers is going to be here, and I think we got the engineers here. They're going to show you exactly where the location is going to be. You're talking about somewhere in the area of 60th Street's right of way and Highway 69 over there where the old Viola, Viola's what we call it a vacuum truck. And it's unfortunate. It created a lot of animosity, a lot of unnecessary animosity. That's why we've been dealing with this since December of last year. And I just got tired of fooling around with it, and that's why I requested that the council, and I appreciate the council honoring in the public hearing, to have the citizens to come here and have some public input so you all can find out exactly what's going on. The company representatives are here, the citizens from District 4 is here, so you all can get good information. Now, I was asked, why are you pursuing this? Why are you pursuing this? Okay, my response to that is this. This company is proposing to do certain things. They got a concept that we'll be looking at tonight. They are willing. First, let me establish this. Our water and sewage department is in the red by $31 million. They're bankrupt. Our water and sewer department is bankrupt. Our tax rate is 7.792. Our tax rate is artificially high because we are having to subsidize, all the taxpayers are having to subsidize the water and sewage fund because it cannot stand on its feet. Now, when you got a couple of options. 2 of them, you can either raise the taxes some more to subsidize it even further, or you'd have to raise the water and sewer rates. We got too many people retired, too many people on fixed income. That is not the way to go. But if you all will keep your minds open and listen to what ZeoGas is going to be presenting, they're going to be buying, over this period of time they're asking for, they're going to be buying water. They're going to be buying water, quite a bit of water, annually.
Hey,
that
hold on a second, Councilmember Lewis. We cannot have anybody responding in the audience until it's your time to speak. If you've signed up to speak, you'll be given an opportunity to do that. Otherwise, we're going to respect everybody who's making comments.
Now okay, those resources are channeled to the city of Port Arthur in water purchasing. That could be channeled to our water and sewage department to help offset the cost, okay? And in addition to that, sales tax, the sales tax, since they are located within the city boundary, within the city limits, the sales tax, regardless of wherever they make the purchases in the state of Texas, with the proper papers and notification by the finance department, the state of Texas is going to rebate that money here in Port Arthur. Let me give you another example. You know that tank farm out there on the West Port Arthur Road? They came to us for a tax abatement. Okay, but they had started the project. But we managed to get them to invoice everything through the city of Port Arthur, we got a couple of extra $1 million. Now, it's unlimited in how much money we'll be, for a sales cycle is concerned, on what we're going to be getting out of this project, if you all allow this project to proceed. But if they walk out of here, we only have, with this company here, we have 3 options. Right now, we only have 2 options. It's being the general fund is being subsidized from your tax dollar. The second option is to raise your water and sewer rates to fund it. Now, if this company is successful in getting an abatement and staying here, that additional, that revenue can be channeled and offset. What we're going to abate, it's going to be far greater than what we're going to be abating. Far greater. We're going to benefit revenue far greater than what's going to be abated. Now, if they walk, and I'm hoping they don't, I'm hoping that we are able, since they got a concept here, we vote on this concept and we go back to the table and we sit down and we negotiate. All before they said we didn't have anything. So they submitted something. They submitted a concept. It's a workable concept. We need to go back to the table with them and try to negotiate with them and try to hopefully keep them here. And if not, oh, by the way, the Water and Sewer Department is a federal mandate. It's an unfunded federal mandate. We get fines on a regular basis for hazardous waste being, being exposed.
Excuse me again, Councilmember Lewis. Let me tell you something. Whether you agree with what he's saying or not has absolutely nothing to do with you respecting this public hearing. Now, you're either going to respect the public hearing or Chief Blanton will have you removed. And I love you all to death, but you're going to respect the public hearing and his right to speak, whether you agree with what he's saying or not. Okay? Go on, Councilman Lewis, and that's the last
all of the elected officials up here, we all have what's called a fiduciary responsibility. And we also have to look and find ways and means of getting revenue to come to the city. If we cannot do these things and have a fiduciary responsibility, we're in the wrong place. We cannot constantly, every time we need money, we go tax our citizens, or we'll raise this rate. The general fund is funded through property taxes and fees. Fees like, permits, water and sewer fees. We don't need to raise these things if we can get companies to come here and work with us and help us to grow and develop this community. Now, in addition to that, on one hand, I have retirees saying that we don't need any more industry like this. Some of them made their living in their retirement off of the oil industry. They're retired. They own fixed income. And on the other hand, I have citizens, young people, has finished operating training school, process operation school. These companies can use it. They got other technical skills that they've gotten their associate degree. They come to me on a weekly basis, 2 or 3 times a week. I have an associate degree. I cannot get a job as an instrument tech or process operator. I cannot get a job. But all these companies, y'all giving all these abatements, and we can't get a job. And you all realize it was a few weeks ago, a group of people came before the city council, the very same complaint. Now, if we are able, what I'm hearing is proposed 300 plus jobs. If we can land 100 jobs, that's stretching it a little bit, 75 to 100. Let's go with the 100. Nice round numbers. I checked with the company. They're going to be paying something like $75,000 a year. Now we're talking about $7.5 million per year. Now, ideally, we would like to have our whatever money is earned in our city, we'd like to have it turned over at least 6 times in the community. If it turns over 6 times in the community, we're talking about $135 million a year. But that's not reality. I'm talking about for the 300, but that's not reality. But what is real? Let's look at the 7.5 million. If we turn that over within our community, I'm talking about going to the grocery stores and whatever, getting folks to hire people to paint, whatever, do whatever we normally do with our money, spending it within the community. We're talking about $22,500,000. That is going to be, that's the minimum. We get it to turn over 3 times within the community. That's $22,500,000. That's why I'm asking you all, and I requested this public hearing so you all can come here and get the facts for yourself. You don't get it secondhand. You get the facts for yourself. And keep your mind open. And you live in this community, and if this company can do what they want, what they can do safely, you know, I don't have a problem with it. If they can do it safely, and hopefully, I think, do we have our compliance officer here, and do we have some EPA people here? There's been some concern about the safety thing. And I requested from the planning and zoning director that they get the EPA personnel here also. You know, we requested them. I don't know if they're here or not, but if they're here, they're welcome to speak. That's all I have to say at this time.
And if you want to speak, please, there are still sign-up sheets in the back. Councilman Albright.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager, is the $31 million that Councilman Lewis is referring to, is that the total bonded debt for the water plant? Or is that?
I'm not really sure. We have been running a deficit for the last 10 years or so, and I don't know if that's exactly the correct number. I don't know.
Okay,
I'll find out and let you know.
But currently, the normal deficit has been around $1 million. And this year, I believe, we're actually on track and not running a deficit. But that being said, since I've been on council, we've only raised water rates once. And it's been a thorny subject every time. And currently, there's no talk in next year's budget that I'm aware of raising water rates, is there? Thank you.
No, not at this time.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yeah, let me respond. The water and sewer department has been subsidized from the general fund, and they've been carrying it for all these years as a loan. Just in the event that the water and sewer department started making money, they can pay the loan back to the general fund. So this information I can get the finance director to come up here and verify. I got my information from the finance director, and I called her during the day. She said the good hard numbers, $31 million in the red.
Councilman Albright.
Thank you. All that being said, if you're carrying something for 10 years, the city is required to balance its books every year. It's an internal accounting. And we haven't borrowed the money. We paid for it out of the general fund. And what it's there to sit there and tell you, because even if the water fund starts making $1 million a year, it's still going to the general fund. Okay? It's just accounting. And we have still managed to grow our reserves and everything else. Now, do we need to address our water? Yes, because most of it's leaking out and everything else. And we're in the process of doing that study right now. But as far as I'm aware, in early budgetary talks, there is no talk about raising anybody's water rates.
Councilman Lewis.
City manager, I'd like to have the finance director to come up here.
Mayor, are we on subject?
We were
Okay.
really not speaking.
We can deal with it later.
We are off subject,
okay.
and we're going to get back in line.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about ZeoGas again, fine.
Okay.
If not, then
The money for, the reason that the money is leaving the general fund, going over into the water and sewage department, simply because
you're right back.
they're not standing, they can't stand on their own feet. They're not generating enough revenue to stand on their own feet.
Councilmember Lewis, you're
Yeah.
back off topic again. Let's keep this
Okay.
in order, if you don't mind. Councilmember Freeman.
Yes, thank you. Well, I appreciate your comments, Councilman Lewis. For the lack of a better term, I would have to say that they're somewhat disingenuous. For the simple fact that we have contracts on paper, that we have refineries now that we give abatements to. In the abatement, it says that they'll hire locals in good faith, and they're going to do this and they're going to do that, and we see that it didn't happen. As a matter of fact, one of the contracts that you signed with the largest refinery in this hemisphere, okay, well, I'm not going to, excuse me, well, let me get back to, because it's all the IDA agreements, I kind of just want to I want to bring it to light.
Let's stay on topic. We're gonna stay
Okay.
on topic.
So with the previous mistakes, for the lack of a better term again, that we've made in the past, we've tried to correct that. We tried to make contracts where it'll get some type of benefit for our citizens, instead of us seeing tail lights leaving the city of Port Arthur every day at 5 o'clock, or tail lights coming in at every day at 7 o'clock. So we've tried to change that. We tried to get something in return for your investment. For us to give a discount to somebody, we're saying, okay, that's fine, we want you here, but what are you gonna do for our citizens? And in these contracts, what we've finally done is we've put things in place that if you wanna get 100%, and we are doing 100% here today, there's certain things you gotta do to get 100%. And that's jobs for our citizens. That's spending money with Port Arthur business. That's what we're about here today. And that's kind of what we're supposed to be talking about, is these incentives that we've been giving away for the citizens in our city and not get nothing in return. So I just wanted to make sure we clarify before we start speaking that we have contracts on book that have been signed by some of the people that have already spoken, that instead of us giving $30 million a year in taxes for streets and for water and sewer, they're only giving us $5 million. No jobs, nothing. So we have to change that. We got to do something. That's what we're here for. So before the confusion and everybody gets started and we say all our opinions, that's what we've been trying to do. Something for the citizens. Thank you.
Councilmember Williams?
Thank you all for coming. I'm here to listen tonight, so I think there's an issue here on the dais about what order speakers should come in. And I'm going to recommend to you that even though you might have beat them on the sign-up sheet and you would normally be ahead, if you came in to speak to the ZeoGas issue, if you would yield that time so that the Foster Wheeler folks can first present the information to you, then we're going to get two things straight right away. And the first thing is the location of the plant, because I don't think anybody really knows the exact location of that plant, and I think you ought to. If you're going to speak with objections, you ought to know for sure where that plant's going to be, because it's not where you thought it was, not where I thought it was anyway. And other than that, just thank you all for being here. This whole experience has been a learning exercise for me, and I know a great deal more about abatements and industry and taxes than I did when this started. And I expect to learn even more tonight.
And because he brought this up, is there anyone in the audience who would object to, is it Foster Wheeler?
Foster Wheeler, yeah.
Foster Wheeler, representatives explaining exactly where this is going to be. Let me know. Are there any objections in the audience? Bishop Turvalon? No, I don't want you to speak. I just need to know. The reason why is because they want to know where it is, but if there were a lot of objections in the audience, I'm going to follow this sign-in sheet. I don't care who's here. So, is this what you all want me to do? Follow? I'm going to yield to the will of the people. Is this what you want me to follow this sign-in sheet, or do you want to hear from Foster Wheeler? And don't speak out loud, please. Just raise your hand. Okay, how many of you all want me to follow this sheet as it is? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3. How many of you all would like to know exactly where the location is prior to you speaking? Okay, then because I'm gonna do what the citizens want. This is how we did it. So where are the Foster Wheeler representatives? One of you will come and speak. Let us, and you have to go to the mic if you don't mind. And let me have your name, sir, for the record, and your address.
Yes, ma'am. My name is, can you hear me okay?
Yep, can you pick it up because pick it up if you don't mind, because we want to record it.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
we want to record it.
I will. Okay, my name is Tex Carter. My residence is at 23231 Parsons Landing in Katy, Texas, and I'm here representing Foster Wheeler, who has made an agreement with ZeoGas to design and build the plant at the site that ZeoGas selects and finally settles on, and we go forward with the job, permits and all of that. Is that a introduction, folks.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I can just interrupt him.
Yes, sir.
She means when she says pick it up, that you can physically
Yeah,
lift the
actually,
microphone.
Yeah, well, and the only reason being is because we have to record it in the back. If you don't
Absolutely.
mind, and the people who are gonna be listening to this later on wanna
Okay.
hear what you're saying.
Okay, and where I am, I feel uncomfortable because I'm turning my back on somebody, no matter
Well,
what
you
I
can-
say.
You know what?
And I apologize.
Sir,
I
you can
apologize.
stand there and speak to the audience if you want to, but just stand by that. It
Okay.
doesn't matter, and then speak to them. It's important that they know where it is, us too, but still.
And we have a colleague here from the local design firm that's helping ZeoGas with their layout work. And again, I'm not trying to deny anything. I'm not part of ZeoGas. I'm a contractor who's working for them to help get the thing built and to do it right, we hope, okay? So for folks who are wanting to know exactly where the place is, can you hear okay? Okay. This is the overall site. It was described earlier by Mayor Prince as being, or by the attorney, one of the two, as being inside these yellow lines on the plot plan that you see here. And I believe Highway 73 is the border. They're talking about the water plant nearby. The actual plant layout that we have today is going to be in this triangle right here. And this is not their land. This is the property that they're looking at. The plant layout does fit completely, including all tankage and all utilities and the administration buildings. In this, essentially, you can see a triangle that's bordered by 2 drainage canals and by the boundary of the property itself. So it's as far away from operating facilities and residents as you could put it on this piece of property. Should I ask for questions? No? Okay.
Just keep explaining.
I'm sorry?
Just keep it, how far is it from the nearest residence?
You want to, we have a map up here, and I'm going to let my colleague go ahead and take over if that's all right, and he can say his name and address too.
Good evening. I'm Keyston Cole. I live at 3941 Joplin Avenue in Groves, Texas. I'm here with Arsenault and Gates Engineering, which is a local firm located in Port Arthur. If you'll look here to the screen here, you can see a little bit better of what he was just explaining about the plant being located in the triangular area between Main B Canal and Main C Jefferson County Drainage District Canal. The mayor has just proposed a question about how far away from the residential subdivision, and here at the most northeasterly corner of the residential subdivision, if you take a line directly from there to the plant location, it is over 4,000 feet from the residential subdivision.
Wait a minute, hold on a second, you all. We don't have an open thing going here. Tell us how many miles it is from the nearest residence. You all will have a chance to respond, and you know what, and God knows I know some of you all, but you know what? If you don't follow it, I'm going to have to ask you to leave, and you know that hurts my heart, but I will. So now, just tell us how far in miles for people like me.
The
From the nearest
location is
residence.
approximately 0.77 miles from the residential
0.7, not even a mile, okay.
No, ma'am.
Now that much I do know. Okay, 0.77 miles is what it is. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Mayor Prince, if we answer this question after.
Yeah, but I wanted them to hear how far it was from the nearest residence. That's important.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lewis, you have a question?
Yeah, yes, I have a question. Is that from the fence line or is that from the actual unit?
And you have to come back up here to speak in the mic.
That distance is to the edge of the property, to where the property boundary would be. We do not have an exact location of the plant at this time, so that is a distance to the property line of this triangular piece
Okay.
here where the
And
plant
on
will
that
be
property
located.
line, you're gonna have a buffer zone, you're gonna have to have a buffer zone.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Councilmember Albright?
Thank you. There's been talk of expanding this plant, and which direction would you expand in? If you're looking at that map, would you be expanding to the left or to the right?
Get to the mic, please.
Currently, at this time, there has not been any expansion discussed with our firm, so I cannot answer that question.
They did not discuss expansion with you all?
No, ma'am, that has not been discussed with our firm.
Okay, Councilman Baldwin?
That's all.
Councilman Lewis?
Let's, could you go up there and point to the triangle that you was talking about? Is that the reverse triangle, or it's all a triangle? Whichever way you turn, it's still a triangle.
Councilman Lewis, I believe that's a fairly good.
Those white cap buildings?
Yes, sir. You see the white spaces in the triangle there?
Right.
And the triangle is bordered. You see the green area. The green area is the barrier that you were talking about earlier.
Right.
It's actually a grown-up green belt type barrier to keep visual interference down from folks.
So if you need to expand, you all can expand toward Highway 69. Put your hand on Highway 69.
Is that Highway 6? That's
That's Highway 69 right
And
there.
into that-
So all that land that's available too.
I believe that that's why they acquired that land, but they want to get one plant up and running first.
Right, and then they need to expand, they can expand toward east.
Correct.
Toward the, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Williamson?
The area of that the actual plant itself has been given to me as 20 acres, more or less. Is that right?
Speak it to the mic.
Yes, sir, that sounds about right.
Okay.
How many?
Thank you.
28?
Okay, we will go, and I'm going to follow this list, and I know that some of you all have signed this list, and you signed it because someone told you that if you were here, you need to sign the list. Well, if you don't want to speak, it's perfectly okay. We're just going to go by the list. Mr. Champ, Dudley Champ.
Madam Prince, rest of the councilman, I'm speaking for myself and the whole neighborhood. We definitely don't want that plant there. We lived in that area for many years. We're surrounded with enough plants already. We live there, we know what we're going through. And we definitely do not want that plant there. And you're talking about jobs? What about health and safety and life? We don't need that plant there. I've been there for many years in where I live right now. And definitely, we have a hard time dealing with what we got now. Sometimes the nurse is so embarrassed, you can't go outside. I mean, it's just a bad idea. And I'm asking y'all in grace, please do not allow this to happen, because we do not need this.
Thank you. Richard Thomas, Senior, or Junior? Senior.
My name is Richard Thomas, Senior, and I live at 529 47th Street. And I built my home in that area in 1980. And we are surrounded by plants. You have Chevron Chemical, you have Valero Refinery, you have Motiva, you have Flint Hills, I mean. And my wife and I keep a 22-month-old grandson every day. And right now, even before this plant is started, he's suffering from skin problems. Okay? I can buy brand new hardware, let's say a doorknob for my doors. And on the packet, it says, will not tarnish. Within 6 weeks, those doorknobs are tarnished. Now, if it's happening to metal, what you think it's doing to us? And I love my grandbabies, and I see it happening right now with the youngest one. And I say no to it.
Marcia Scott. Marcia Scott. Or no, this is Marcia Scott. Okay, Francis M. Bryant. You know, 8. Bishop Tervalon.
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Freeman, congratulations, Councilmember Frank and Councilmember Hamilton. I'm a little slow, but thank God. A couple of months ago, I didn't think I'd be here or anywhere else but being with Jesus. I live at 3220 25th Street. I have some other property in Port Arthur. Me, not All Nations Ministry. My money, not their money. Okay? I represent All Nations Ministries, which I have a responsibility to, just as you have to your constituents in politics. Now, I have a concern, they have a concern, and I have a question for the people from ZeoGas. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, sir. But they're not going to answer you, just going to make...
Well, I just want to throw this out
Okay,
to
just
address
okay.
our concerns.
Yes, sir.
One, when and where were you formed? That's 1A. 1B, do you have any other plants in operation, or is this just a theory and concept? I would like those answered so I can bring back to the people. Now, and I am thoroughly, adamantly opposed to this body, the people of Port Arthur in this body, having to vote and consider it with a gun barrel, arrogant, take it or leave it attitude. We're opposed to that. Now, thank you, Lord. You know, there was talk about the jobs and the concern for the jobs. Where was the concerns with Edison Square project with a true and tried and trusted local developer? Where was the concerns for the jobs when Harvey Lorry came in? Where were the concerns then? Why did you vote negative? So I'm asking prayerfully, and think about what you're doing. Do you want to entrust our children, future generations, with some pie-in-the-sky concept that hasn't been proven? I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Gerald DeBlanc? You're not speaking? Sylvia? Next. Okay. Luella Perry? Catherine Henry?
Excuse my nerves. Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Henry, resident of 2356 Lavender Street. And also, I'm speaking on behalf of my grandparents, 340 Drummond, Elvesta Village, directly near the proposed land. Words cannot describe what Port Arthur means to me as a young person. This is my foundation. All of these people are my foundation. You're asking, not you all, but the company is asking the city of Port Arthur for an abatement. We really will not benefit from that because we have not benefited from the ones in the past. And I'm speaking as a youth that's out there with friends, family, classmates who have graduated exceedingly and abundantly above what was expected of them. And they have been declined jobs here locally. We have people who leave Port Arthur on a daily basis saying, well, I can't make it here. Well, if you can't make it here, where else can you make it at home? Where you should have the support not only of your family and your friends, but of your community and the businesses that stand here. I'm not only speaking for my family, but I'm speaking as a small business person. I'm self-employed here and proud of it. I'm extremely proud of it. But you're asking us to approve something that is right near the city's reserve of water. I may not have the most fantastic job, but I'm proud of it because I earned every hour of it. I'm a licensed cosmetologist, and as well as my sister. If something happens at this plant and the water becomes contaminated, that's not only our drinking water and the water we bathe in, that's the water that I'll be using to supply services to the community. So what you're telling me is that I'm irrelevant by placing this here. Port Arthur is a large area. To some people it may be small because we aren't as big as Houston per se in numbers of people, but in land mass, there is plenty of other land available for them to move this. This does not have to be on top of my grandparents. This does not have to be on top of my church members. This does not have to be on top of my children. I am here as a mother. I am here as a daughter. I am here as a businesswoman. I am here as a grandchild to tell you, no, we do not want this. You can have a plant. We're not saying, no, we don't want you here at all. We're telling you, no, we don't want it where you want to place it. Because at the end of the day, we approve this, and then what, 2 years later, you all have the expansion, and then you're in my grandparents' back door where he likes to grow okra and corn, and then you tell me, oh, well, something happened at the plant. We're going to have to burn all the food we tried to plant because it's contaminated. Many of times in history, just growing up here, how many times have we had the plants have to come out and power wash our homes and power wash our cars? And that's across the highway. You're telling me right here in the back door, oh, there's no issue. There is an issue, and it's our holistic health. And I'm happy to see that we're here. If nobody else showed up, I was going to be here to let you know, no, it is not welcome in our back door. There is plenty other land available for you all to use, and I humbly request that you all find somewhere else to place your plant out of respect of the taxpayers who are here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Tesra, Henry. Bonnie Palmer. Thomasine Thomas. Ms. Thomas? Okay, thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Williamson?
if I might just ask these folks a question. Did you folks originally intend to speak and now you're not speaking because your question was answered?
No, that's not it.
Okay.
They were told to sign the sheet if they were here, so that's why a lot of them signed it. And I do apologize to you all. It was just miscommunicated, that's all. But I appreciate the fact that you're here, and your names are here, and if you don't want to speak, of course, we respect that. Ruby Alexander? Where's Ruby? Barbara Brasher? No, Barabin. Bobby, I'm sorry. You speaking? Juliana Barnes?
Your Honor, Mayor, Councilman, Councilwomen, I'm nervous too, but I'm not here to talk about tax abatement. I frankly don't understand it, and I'm gonna tell you I don't. The one thing I'm here to say to all of you is, I do not want that in my backyard. I love my neighborhood, I've been there since 1971, and I don't want to look out my front door and see that staring at me. I work at one of the refineries, great job, I love it, I know those people know what they're doing. I don't know what these people know. I don't even know how long they've been in business. Frankly, I don't want them in my neighborhood. And that's all I came here to say, that me and my neighbors, we do not want that in our backyard. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis, you have something to say?
Yes, a question of, your name Tex? Got a question for you. What
Wait a minute, Councilmember Lewis, I'm sorry, but you just can't do this right now. Hold on a second. We're gonna finish. I'm gonna respect the people who signed up. You can come back and call people if you
Okay,
choose
no
to.
problem.
But, Keyston Cole? And Ann says no. Oh, Ann decides she wants to speak. Ann Henry? I was respecting your wishes from earlier.
I've been listening to a lot of that. I couldn't keep still, so I didn't say nothing. We don't want this. And because, y'all see, I'm full of soul. I don't pay almost $2,000, and the doctors can't tell me where this come from. They don't know. And I live 18 East 13th Street. And at night, I cannot sleep for that bam of what we have now at the refinery. The things go off, people being hurt. If I had my way, I would move somewhere else, but I'm not able to. This is that's not caring about us, the people. It's caring about money, and I am sick of it. Money don't keep us well. Money don't keep our children here. My children had to move. I have a house for them, but they're in Houston. I got to get up and down the highway every so often to go see them because they can't work. And they all college degree. They made high honors. And now they got to move because they can't find a job. We got enough of that darn stuff down here. And it's killing the people. If y'all don't believe it, read the obituary. Cancer everywhere. I might have it too. I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm here to speak. No, y'all, why are we here? Why are we here? We're supposed to be on this side. All the other people that move, you know who I'm talking about. And then we got to put it here with the black people. What y'all trying to kill us? No, I don't want it here. We got enough refinery. Like the man said, we can't even drink the water right here in the city. I got to buy water every month because the water's so bad. So something got to be done. And it's not for me, but for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly King?
Mayor Prince,
Yes, ma'am.
council members, it gives me much pride and privilege to represent my area of Highland, El Vista, Vista Village, Port Acres, Montrose. All have spoken, but all weren't able to be here today. I thank you, Councilman Lewis, for sharing information with me. But at that time, I told you, I am not in favor of ZeoGas being placed at my doorstep. I have lived in that area for over 50 years. Not that I'm 90 years old, but I've been there since I was a child. I lived there at a time where when we first built, we could see the highway. And it was a wonderful place to live, a wonderful quiet place for children, for families, for those that grew their own vegetables. One family next door grew the most beautiful, gorgeous greens. That family both died back to back from cancer. We've been blessed with jobs. We've been blessed with wonderful income for this city. Unfortunately, we may be in trouble right now. But ZeoGas cannot be the answer to this situation. There is more that needs to be done. I speak to you because we are asking that you listen to the residents of this particular area. My key question is, are there not outlying areas available where the citizens will not be so, affected? I used to ride my bicycle that far. That's not a big deal. I walk that far now. I walk 2 miles a day with no problem. So I don't understand why that has to be right next door to me, right next door to my fellow residents here. We have enjoyed a wonderful life in this city. We've experienced the traffic. Most of our residents made it a point to be home before 4 o'clock to make sure that they would not be overrun by the 3,000 contractors. 3,000 contractors who, when you talk about lights, baby, we saw the lights going in, going out, and running us over consistently on a daily basis in a quiet neighborhood that we love. We love Port Arthur. Our children are trying to stay here. They're trying to, as Ms. Henry said, they're doing everything they're supposed to do. They're going to college. They're making the grades. But are the opportunities actually being presented to the children that are meeting these requirements? I don't know what the checklist is, but there needs to be a better check on the 25% that you are requiring for our industries. We need to understand, because at this time period, in 1980, there were a lot of folks hired. And now the retiree level is up in every refinery. Is there a checklist to make sure that there is still the residential requirement met for the kids that are hired into those positions? I don't know. This is just something I'm putting out there. But we've met, we've talked, we've discussed it within our communities, and we ask. And I didn't give my location. I am Beverly King. My husband is Robert King. We've been blessed. But are our children going to have the same opportunities? Are they going to have those opportunities to live and see the future of a bright Port Arthur? Port Arthur used to be the bright sunshine and the number one. Number one. We need to get there. ZeoGas is not the answer. It is not in that location. It affects the hospital. It affects the brand new Memorial High School. It affects the St. Lucian Elementary School. Point 7? No, dear. I can walk it. I can ride my bicycle there, and it is the wrong location. It is definitely the wrong location. Whatever I can do to help you see the number of citizens that are truly against this, I will walk the streets. We've started. If you need every household, I will bring it to you. We are working together as citizens to help you understand that we value each and every one of you. But we hope that you will listen. Please, listen. I have stood in my doorway and observed an explosion, a fire, felt the heat. I've been able to stand in my yard as if sunshine was out there because the flares were so bright. And we've done that on a daily basis. Motiva brought us the biggest in the world. How can ZeoGas now become the savior of Port Arthur? I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it, especially not in that area. What you're doing is jeopardizing the lives of the people that have put their hope and faith in you to do the right thing. Protect our children. Protect our children. Because when there is a leak, we cannot escape gas. When you are sleeping, things are being exposed. And we know that. We know that. And once it's seeped into the water, you don't know it until something comes out and your babies don't look right. So we've got to really think hard about what we really truly value as far as our citizens are concerned. You want to know why they're leaving? It's because of things like this. Because most of the children feel they cannot be heard, their words will not be valued. At this time, Mayor, thank you ever so much.
Thank you. Jude Anthony. Jude's not speaking. Delton Narcisse, or Narcisse, yeah, that's good. Ronald Dejan.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Ron Dijon. A lot of y'all know me. I live at 521 Linkwood and sit on my patio a lot. There's nothing behind me. If I was to take off walking, I can come out at Highway 365. And I don't want zero gas in my backyard. I don't want it. Just like you can go to Groves and ask the people at Groves that they want RBF in their neighborhood. I mean, I smell it every time I go down Hogglebloom. And if they had to do it over again, they probably would have raised a lot of cane about them putting that plant in their neighborhood. Can't say nothing for Motiva or all the other plants they've been here. I don't like how they put the big tank for them on Highway 365 and Westport Arthur Road. Now you want to put this in my backyard. We got to deal with pipelines already. That was already there. I built this house in '96. And I like for ZeoGas chairman or president, whoever he is, come build in my neighborhood or buy my house that I won't be able to sell. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we still, for those of you all who've come in late, we still have sheets in the back if you care to sign them. If you want to speak, they're in the back on the little table. Carolyn Dejan? You said if you say so, Mr. Dejan. James Addison? James Marvin Hillstock? No, ma'am. You can sign up though. Okay. Edna Davis? Max Strasser?
Good evening, Council. My name is Matt Strasser. My address is 1148 Helena Avenue in Nederland, Texas. And I represent the landowners who own that piece of property that everyone is referring to as in their backyard. Happens to be our front yard, and we paid the taxes on that and own that land for about 70 years. The one thing I would like to request and focus on would be to ask or request that Foster Wheeler potentially come back up here and if they're able to explain the safety and health issues that seem to be the major concern this evening.
Well, that's up to the citizens, sir. I have a list and they've signed up and I'm going to respect them again. They want to continue speaking, so, okay, so it's okay. They can come back after everybody has spoken. There'll still be people here.
Okay, that would be great.
All right.
One other thing that I would like to mention is that OCI, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Natural Gasoline LLC, has decided to locate the same exact type of refining of clean natural gas and converting it to crystal clear zero sulfur gasoline in the city of Beaumont. Now, I'm sure the council's very aware that OCI has located its similar business with the same design, concept, etc. in the city of Beaumont, and I have in front of me what the council of Beaumont gave to OCI.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, can
And
we
this is
stay on
February.
ZeoGas?
Yeah, this is February 18th,
Yeah, but I'm
24. It's
talking
very
about ZeoGas.
relevant. It's the same type of business.
We want to stay with ZeoGas.
Well, that's
Okay,
what,
everybody be quiet.
that's what I'm
gonna-
trying to do, Mayor. With all due respect, my point, and I'm at my point,
And all due
is
respect, we're
that-
going to stay with ZeoGas also.
yeah, is that the city of Beaumont granted OCI a 10-year,
That's fine,
100%
that's fine.
abatement.
Sir, I'm going to ask you again, let's get back to the ZeoGas issue. We're not, I respect you for wanting to give us that information, but if you want to pass it out to council later, that's fine. But right now, we're on the ZeoGas issue. And
Okay.
everybody, if you all don't mind, I'm talking to him, you know, and I think he's hearing me.
Yes, and what I would like to say to the council is that my point that I'm trying to make is that ZeoGas, which is what we're talking about, is the same design concept as OCI in Beaumont. So I believe that for the moment, it's fair to talk about what was granted to
No, sir.
OCI.
Let's talk about these people are here for a public hearing on ZeoGas.
Okay.
And
Okay.
sir, that's it.
Fair enough.
That's it.
I guess in conclusion, I would ask the council to consider from a business standpoint what's at stake here. And that is ZeoGas will most likely locate in Beaumont if they're not able to partner with the great city of Port Arthur and come to a negotiable contract that's fair and agreeable to both sides. The reason I say that is that the city of Beaumont is willing to extend to them the 10-year 100% abatement. And as I've heard tonight from the citizens of Port Arthur, they seem to be content and fine with that. However, I would urge the council to consider it from all angles for the entire city of Port Arthur and look at it from that perspective. And that's why what I said at the beginning, which is that the landowners of that property, which I represent, it seems like they should have a say more than other people with respect to that they would want that located on their property.
He has a right to his opinion, and
I guess, I'm in hot water already with everyone here tonight,
Yes,
so I'm
sir.
just going to wrap it up. I think I've made my points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Robert Troy.
Your mayor, city council, fellow Port Arthurans. I've had several different views about this ZeoGas coming in here. One of the problems that I have is that, like everybody else says, in our backyard. Now, I'm not against ZeoGas coming into Port Arthur. I'm just not into them coming where they want to come. We've got property, a lot of other places around where they can build that refinery and not be near residential areas. He said that's 7/10 of a mile from the water treatment plant. No, I'm sorry, 7/10 of a mile from the people, the nearest residential section. But that makes it be less than 7/10 of a mile to our water supply. I'm looking at that map and I'm judging it's about 1,800, maybe 2,000 feet from the water reservoir. Maybe. And that's a little bit too close for the possible contamination of our water supply should there be an event. And like all plants around this area, this one will be no different. there will be some events. I also want to make in consideration that we're talking about taking methane gas, natural gas, converting it to methanol, and then taking methanol and converting it to ethanol. Am I right? That's generally the process. Well, in other words, you're going to take natural gas and make gasoline out of it. Now, I know that's right. Okay? In the process of going from one element to another, and we're talking about breaking down natural gas at the molecular stage. We're talking about breaking down at the molecular stage. Now, I'm not a chemist. I'm not a physicist. I'm not an engineer. But I know to change from natural gas to gasoline, you're going to have to do some refining. You're going to have some catalysts. You're going to have some heat. And we are plagued. Our neighborhood has probably one of the highest cancer rates in the city, let alone the state. We have the highest birth defect rate in the city and the state. We have the highest respiratory diseases in the city and in the state. And I think that ZeoGas should back off and find some other area in Port Arthur that don't put people at risk. Or, like the guy said, go to Beaumont or Carpus. Thank you.
Yasmin Hill Seville.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I am Jocelyn Hill Jackson Seville. I live out in Montrose. First thing, I'm going to say no to ZeoGas. My livelihood is I work at the Medical Center of Southeast Texas, and that is, like you say, right in the back door of the ZeoGas. I live down the street from the medical center that's also putting me in risk with the ZeoGas. The place I worship, St. John's Catholic Church, El Vista, that's another vicinity within my range of the ZeoGas, and I am still saying no to ZeoGas. We had the opportunity to have that tank farm put in Montrose about 3-4 years ago. They were supposed to only put like 12 tanks out there. They have grown, they have expanded, they have changed their names several times. They have used the water for the fire hydrants out there, which your citizens out there do not even have water on the streets where they have fire hydrants connected because they have an out of order sign on them. But the one by the tank farm has water flowing continuously. So, okay, your water, they got a tax abatement, I'm quite sure, to put that jet fuel there. That's what's supposed to be in those tanks, but like I say, y'all said 12 tanks. It's like 30+ tanks now. It's an eyesore, true that. Okay, you're risking our lives, our places of worship, our livelihood, where we have been born and raised here. One one night, I was getting ready to go to bed after I worked, because I work night shift. So, I'm getting ready to lay down, and we had a big explosion out there on West Port Arthur Road. That's about, what, 3 years ago? But somebody guaranteed us those pipelines wouldn't blow up. Didn't we have a blow up out there? Yeah, we have had several blow ups. Right there at the hospital, right across from 69, the tank pipeline blew up. That's about 5 years ago. So, the safety of these things, we do not consider for our citizens, but we continue to say yes to these companies that do not live in the area, and they come in and get their abatement, and then they're gone. They change their names 3-4 times, and then we're left with their residue. No to ZeoGas.
Thank you. Rose Chason.
Good evening to the Honorable Mayor and Council. I'm Rose Chason. I live at 340 47th Street in Port Arthur, Texas. First, let me say I am opposed to the ZeoGas project. I have enough of my backyard scenery as the plants, and I don't have to have heat on when the flares are going because my house is so hot. So I am adamantly opposed to any plant in the area. But I want to take a diversion from what the other people have said in the audience. I detest the arrogance of the company acting as though the citizens do not know what they want, first and foremost. Just because we may not have a degree in whatever field you're in does not mean that we are uneducated about what we want. We have a company that has not given us any proven results. We don't know what their expertise is. The gentleman that has made the presentation, I tried to get on that website. I had, excuse my French to the my senior citizens, hell trying to get to that website. I do not like the words, and I was on the council, and most of you know that I fought like hell when they said best effort to get Port Arthur residents. When you hire 1,000 people and only 20% of the people are hired, that's 200 people. You spend $10 million in purchasing, and many of the companies locally can tell you they didn't get the maybe 4%, which is $400,000 out of $10 million. That's no money. Then after you finish the job, you go down from 20% to 5% of employment. We did the studies. I still have those papers at home that I asked from BSF. Give me a breakdown of how many Port Arthur people took the test, how many people were hired. You on the council when you and I and Mark Viator got into a heated discussion about the number of people hired from Port Arthur. This best effort is a crock. It's a crock of bull. First of all, they're going to give you a subjective test, not an objective test. We've given people the test, sent people to the jobs, and they still wouldn't hire. Not just all African Americans, Vietnamese, Hispanic, they didn't get hired. They had to leave, go to Baytown and get a job, go to Lake Jackson and get a job. I'm not pulling out numbers. I'm pulling out facts. The company is too close to every home for every person that live here. Most of the people who are coming in this area, with all due respect to the landowner, you're one landowner against 2,000 or more. Yes, you have a voice, but we have a voice too. Every day, we pay taxes too. We don't complain. But go to Nederland and build your plant. You're not going to Nederland. You're talking about Beaumont. It's finna build you a plant. I like jobs, don't get me wrong. But Port Arthur residents not gonna get these jobs because your test is gonna be subjective. It's not gonna be objective. We know that. And I know that from being on the council. Supposedly there was a tentative agreement with Corpus Christi or some city in Louisiana, never to get the name of the city. So, you know, I have a problem. The damages to the streets from the other plant expansions. Streets are not repaired. They were supposed to give that money back for the repairment of the streets. Our streets still tore up. Water bill, I don't mind paying for a water bill. I'm on fixed income too, just like everybody else. Fix this, fix that. But it still comes out the taxpayers' money. I worked for the city of Port Arthur for about 15 years before I got on the council. And I know a lot of these businesses do not get the money they think they're going to get from any of these contractors. These companies, they say, oh, well, you don't have what we need. I have to go to my homeboy over here in Houston. The contractors come in. I'm not going to name the names. Y'all know I can name them. They won't hire our people in Port Arthur. A lot of people don't know me because a lot of times I go incognito with head on sunshades and people be talking and I'm sitting there listening and say, oh, that's how that works now. If my friend is the supervisor, I get who all I want on this job. Okay? If I don't know you, you're not getting hired. That's not what Port Arthur is supposed to be. We're supposed to take care of everybody in Port Arthur, not just Councilman Lewis people or Councilman Albright's people, Councilwoman Frank's people, everybody. Because we've all voted. Now whether we voted for you or could vote for you, you don't know that because that's a private thing. But you're here to represent all of us. I understand that the water department is in the red. The water department been in red for ever since it's been created. That's not gonna change. That's not gonna change. They always borrowing money. But that's because the federal government has issued all of these mandates that, hey, we gotta do what we have to do. So, sir, you can tell your representative, and I want everybody, a lot of people won't talk, but I want y'all to say, no. You can tell. Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Jason. Warren Field?
Oh, he ain't gonna miss it.
Warren Field, 1147 6th Street. And I guess people have read my remarks in terms of the ZeoGas, and you know what I said. No, Zeo, no. And what can I add to all of the discourse we've already had? And it's very substantial, very objective in terms of what people have mentioned. I agree with that. I agree with that. But what I'm concerned about is the politics of it all. The politics of it all. And I just hope that our council, although they may be split, we know that. I just hope that they vote their conscience on this and listen to the people. That's what I hope. I pray that. I pray that every night. And when the people say no, and we've hustled up a lot of people, we've had town hall meetings, talking to the people to get the word out. We've had people that have put out the wrong information so that a lot of people won't make it tonight in terms of the time and the day. We've had all of that. But I'm not discouraged. I know we will prevail because I think, and I truly believe in my council. I love my council, each one of them. And you know I love you. I just hope that you vote your conscience from a moral standpoint. Now, I can stand up here and say a lot of things, but I'm going to let it go at that. And I just hope you do that, and I appreciate it.
Harold Doucette?
Good evening. Harold Doucette, 5180 Cambridge Avenue, Port Arthur, Texas. And being a former councilman, I want to first thank the city attorney for the briefing that she gave the citizens today. I think it was one that they can understand tax abatement, they can understand what's at stake. And as a former councilman, I want to commend the council for what you have done with formulating a policy that will set the standards for the city. A lot of the citizens may not want to know when the city attorney talked about hiring a firm. This started when I was on council. So what you have derived and established, I know you've been working on for over 2 years, more so like 3. And you've done a wonderful job of establishing a policy. The policy will take care of Port Arthur residents in all of your future agreements, whether it be tax abatement, IDAs. I know for a fact that what the city attorney presented to us today, that if anybody want tax dollars, they're going to have to put up some jobs. And that's not going to be dependent on best effort or good faith. So I commend the council. You are heading in the direction that we need our leaders to go in ensuring that if we spend tax dollars, money will remain in Port Arthur, vendors will be used in Port Arthur, laborers will be used in Port Arthur, contractors will be used in Port Arthur. And that's what citizens have complained about prior to my getting on council and to this day. Once you have initiated the policy, you will see a different flow in revenue. And the citizen will know that this council has made the best decision. In reference to ZeoGas, I think that should not even be a discussion for the simple reason you have a policy. If you follow your policy, either they fall into it or they fall out. What they demand is nothing more than what everybody asks. Everybody's trying to get the most they can. It's up to you to say, we hear you, but our policy won't do that. We don't do it that way no more. And if you do that, then we don't have to worry about the results of ZeoGas. But what I want to say in closing is, you've really found out what it takes in order to do good agreements. But I think it's one thing that you heard today that I didn't think was of that magnitude, is whenever someone wants to come in with a project, I think we need to take a look at the locations. I had an article today that I talked about in which Port Arthur was labeled, in its national publication, labeled the sacrifice for United States gasoline. Port Arthur was a sacrifice for United States gasoline. And basically what it entailed was the fact that we had all these refineries and all our high rate of cancer and respiratory. And they said that we sacrificed the city and the health of our people for the big guys, and that's the term they use, the big guys. So all dollars ain't good dollars. But your policy you explained today will definitely help us and lead us in the right direction. I just hope that you all have the intestinal fortitude to stay with it. And we'll get through it. We don't need to be threatened about tax increases. We don't need tax increases. I mean, and we've been dealing with these deficit in water for so long. Y'all will find a way. I think we're finna make more money with your policy. So stay course. And the citizens here are here to tell you they don't want it, but at the same time, they're here to support your stance up to this point. Council, thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Pelletier.
Hi, I'm Dee Pelletier, 4609 Alamosas, Port Arthur, Texas. I came tonight for information. I've received a lot of information, and my main question was going to be, does the city of Port Arthur have a policy in place that no matter who comes to this city and wants to build here, does one rule apply to all? And that's the way it ought to be. And I seem to understand now that y'all do have that, and that y'all will be fair to everyone that wants to be here and not have a separate price for whomever and different people. Now, my second thing I'm going to say, because so many people have spoken tonight, maybe y'all ought to think about another location. Listen to the people. I don't know the answer to that, but it's worth looking into. Thank you.
Thank you. John Henry?
Good evening, Council, Mayor, citizens of Port Arthur. John B. Henry Jr., small businessman, resident 2356 Lavender, also 849 Phyllis. I grew up at 340 Drummond. I would like to welcome ZeoGas to come in here and make their presentation. I think you gentlemen have been honest, and I think you've told us what the things we need to hear. I think sometimes our newspapers are our worst enemy. There was a furor up over where the location was, and we've gotten that clear. I think that's probably why many of the other citizens haven't spoken, now that we know. But it's still too close to our residents where we live. That area in question by our neighbors in Needland who own the property, myself and many of the young men here, well, we were younger men back then, we used to walk that area in the marshlands. And every year, up to about 30 years ago, I would go out there and I would photograph the wildlife, especially the birds that would migrate into our area. The thing is that I think you have a good idea. I think you could probably even convince us that a natural gas plant is a lot more safer than a petrochemical plant. I have no doubt that you can prove that. But we have other places here in Port Arthur that I think would probably suit all the parties involved, except for possibly the seller or the owner of the property who doesn't live in Port Arthur. As many of you know, every 10 years, more and more people have moved out of Port Arthur who have been here for generations, and they've made their income and made their fortunes here. Health-wise, as Mr. Former Serviceman Sergeant Doucette said, is that we sacrifice here in Port Arthur our lives and our health for the rest of the country. Many of you sitting here on the council can remember 30 years ago that when they trucked the gas out of refineries here, people from Beaumont and Orange and around the area would come with their gas cans and they filled their cars and spent time on Pleasure Island because gasoline was 10 to 15 cents cheaper here. Okay? They go to Leo and Willie's and the schooner and spend that time and then come over here and enjoy our beautiful Pleasure Island. So we have a good history of what we've had in the past. As far as our health goes, the area where Mrs. King was speaking of, she grew up probably 2 blocks down from where she resides right now. On that particular street, there's probably the highest concentration of cancer victims in Port Arthur. June Anthony can tell you that the chances of 2 people on Waco Street having Lou Gehrig's disease is like having 2 people on the same street win the lottery. Mr. Senegal died of Lou Gehrig's disease, so did her sister. There's some of the children in that part of the neighborhood, their top layer of their skin, you can see the whiteness of their skin. But doctors can't find anything wrong with it, or what's in the area. It's very unfortunate that ZeoGas, and I'm not mad at you guys, I just think y'all got the wrong end of the stick at the time that you've come. I still think there's a place for you. I out of this location. I'm sure we can find common ground. But let me say this. You got Beaumont, Texas, God's country as they want to call it. You got Orange, Texas, our neighbors. I can't say nothing bad about Beaumont, because California sent my wife to me through Beaumont. But the deal is, I'm still convinced that here in Port Arthur, the best resources, the best access we have are the citizens of Port Arthur, the people. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mr. John Beard Jr.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Listening to all of what has been said so far, it's been quite interesting. And I know you all are going to have a decision to make this evening or at some time in the near future. But first, before I go into what I really want to say, let me commend you for the work you've done to put together a plan where Port Arthur residents and businesses, contractors and vendors will finally begin to get some benefit from these multi-billion-dollar projects that we have here. That's a good, noble, and worthwhile effort, and I'm proud of you for doing that. But now, while I praise you, let me also remind you of something. What got each and every one of you sitting where you are today was the fact that you came to the people, and you said that you would support them, and you asked them for your support at the polls. Don't abandon the people that brung you. If those people had confidence in you to ask you to represent them and their concerns, then you have an obligation. Earlier you heard about fiduciary obligation. Well, now you have a moral obligation to listen to them and to act in their behalf. And they made it quite clear this evening that they don't want ZeoGas in that location. They haven't said, to some extent, whether or not in the city at all. And given some of the, excuse my expression, arrogance expressed by several this evening that have spoken, I could not blame them for wanting to say, well, if that's how you feel, so long. But you have a blueprint in front of you. You have a policy from Resolution 14-144 that you recently passed that gives you the guidelines and gives you what you need to be able to make a decision that will not only be good for the city, but also be good for people. Remember, this is a people business. And if you abandon the people, eventually the people will abandon you. So I want you to think on these things carefully. There may be some potential to help the city because of all the problems it has. And we want to see those problems solved. But at the same time, you've got to consider the impact on people. Former council member Doucette made mention of this article, and it's in One Earth magazine, and it says, Port Arthur is sacrificed so America can have gasoline. Another article in Oil magazine speaks of Port Arthur as being the American sacrifice zone. Why? Because of the high incidence and rate of cancer, the high incidence and rate of heart and lung disease, all of which have been attributed to the environmental contamination from the number of plants in their close proximity to our citizens. Now think on this. If you really and truly want to help them, listen to what they're telling you. You've done that so far, and that's a marvelous thing. Keep doing what you're doing. But at the same time, consider their needs. And if this plant can go somewhere else, then let it go there where it doesn't impact them, where it doesn't hurt and harm them, where they can go and see places they saw when they were younger. Because one thing for sure, we don't want to find ourselves, wake up one day and find that the only vacant land we got is where we are right now. Because plants have come all around us. When Motiva, Valero, Gulf, Texaco, and all of them started out over 100 years ago, they weren't that big. They were just little small areas, but they grew up around you. Those people in the affected areas of Port Acres and El Vista and Vista Village, that tank farm in the Buckner edition off of Roosevelt, it wasn't there back in the 50s, was it? I remember as a young man when that started building out in that area. And it wasn't there. Those tanks that only recently been put up off of just south of, what's that, Montrose. Those tanks weren't there 10, 15 years ago. But as you see plants and things expand because of the need for gas and oil and products, these facilities enlarge themselves. And pretty soon you find yourself surrounded. One of your colleagues, Mr. Como, in that seat that you're sitting in a long time ago when I was here, said that if you buy land in Port Arthur, you better know what's underneath you. Because this city is crisscrossed with pipelines, and some of them you don't know where they're at. And strangely enough, one was found recently on Welford Avenue where they were building a recovery home for one of our citizens. Didn't know it was there. So let's be prudent and let's be careful. Most of all, let's be prayerful to make sure we make the right decision that helps people, not hurts them. There's too much hurt and suffering already in this city from lack of jobs, lack of opportunity, lack of youth. And when all your children start leaving, and all your older folk, and we're all getting older every minute, get to the point where they're no longer here anymore, then what we find is that you have a city that's not growing but dying. Port Arthur shouldn't have to die. Port Arthur should be able to thrive and grow, but that decision is based on the decision you make here. Thank you once again, and I applaud your work and your efforts.
Christopher Jacobs.
Good evening, everyone. Part of my appearance is I decided to try to make this meeting after getting off of work at 6 o'clock, so that's why I look like I do. I've been working as a Boilermaker for approximately 7 years, and I listen to a lot about how people talk about hiring from Port Arthur and everything. Well, I'm a personal testament that these companies do not hire us. They do not. I worked at a refinery for a year and 6 months, and I was the only person for that whole company out of about 75 employees that was from Port Arthur. That is real. I travel a lot, as some of you already know. I travel a lot. I go to El Paso, New Orleans area. I meet more people from Port Arthur in those refineries hundreds of miles away than right here in our own city. That says a lot. That says a lot about trust and responsibility to the citizens of Port Arthur. None of my siblings live in Port Arthur because there are no jobs for them to grow. My sisters, as maybe some of you know, have even started an organization to kind of give back to Port Arthur because that's how much they love Port Arthur. But they cannot live here and better themselves in a sense. Most people in my generation, they did leave. I'm 32 years old. That should not be the case. It's bad enough that you live here and cannot find a job here. And our industry is so limited here. I didn't know how to feel about said company. And I hear what you all are saying, and I do agree, because I've never seen the results. Yes, I have a handful of friends that work in the plant and actually work for these companies. And I've passed almost every entrance exam. I have no record, no criminal record whatsoever. And still I'm not hired. And I'm not understanding that. I have more invites from companies to test in Memphis, Tennessee, North Dakota, California, but not right here in Port Arthur. And I'm not understanding that. So I don't trust any more companies coming in. I don't. The health effects, yes, I know they're dangerous because I've been doing this kind of work for, like I said, 7 years. I've actually been exposed to some of these chemicals. I'm not going to place any blame. What's done in the past is done, so I'm not here to blame those people and those companies. But what I'm here to say is, listen to these people. These people know they're talking about people from my grandmother's generation. My grandfather's a retired Boilermaker from Gulf. So there's no telling what he was exposed to or what my mother was exposed to during her time at Gulf. And basically what I'm trying to say is, I don't trust these companies. I'm tired of it. And it's a shame that a lot of times I feel like I have to look for employment somewhere else because of all the promises that have been broken. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Leon Wright.
Leon who?
They get those girls.
Leon?
Shaking their head, say no.
Is that Leon?
Mike and that.
Who's Leon?
Tejas Morningstar. Leon Wright, 3200 Turtle Creek Parkway here in Port Arthur, Texas, a.k.a. Tejas Morningstar Breeze Radio. All due respect to the mayor and the council, thank y'all for having this forum. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the people for coming out. I am a revolutionist. I am the district coordinator for the NOR, N-O-R-A-R, the National Organization for Revolutionary Change. We deal with social, philosophical, and psychological problems. I take issue. I left here many, many years ago because of the same thing. Everybody don't want to work in a plant. I'm raising 3 girls now, conditioning them to do something else with their lives and to remain in Port Arthur. I return. I take issue with the fact that it is said that we are retired people. Yes, this is our home. Population in this city, when I left it was 60,000, 70,000 something. Now it's 55. There's a lot of reasons people left. But one of the things is that people want to come back. But when we have an unemployment rate of 14 to 15 to 16%, and we talk about this as Port Arthur residents, we got jobs. There's jobs all over the place. You can tell that by the traffic that comes in and out of here. But what about us? What about us? What are you going to do for us here lately? Because we are putting our trust in you. Our trust. And some Johnny-come-latelys and whatever agendas other people have to try to sell a bag of. I said I was going to be nice.
Yes, you did. You most certainly did.
I've got 3 questions. The information that comes down, see, I'm a pragmatist, but I'm a realist also. You don't pull on Superman's cape and you don't spit in the wind. But to tell me over and over again that we don't have skilled people here when I know of people who went to schools, just as the gentleman said, and I have taken people to schools when EDC was putting up the information, the training, and the people passed and they couldn't get the jobs here. Some of them had to go to Lake Charles. Some of them had to go towards Houston. And they said, but we want to stay home. They can't. And if we're talking about the young people's future, we're not talking about my future. I'm on my way out. But I have children. It's their future that is my concern. and we need to do something about it, and that is, all of the people have said everything they could say. There's a lot more to say, but I want to thank y'all for listening to me.
Brenda Addison.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brenda Addison, and I have been for 41 and a half years living at 4909 Waco Avenue. When I first moved there were a lot of empty lots, a lot of seniors lived there. My husband decided to live there because he worked at Texaco, where he got laid off from and found another job, another small refinery, where he got laid off from and had to end up moving to Atlanta, Georgia. We're in Newnan, Georgia. We stayed there for 10 years, and oh yes, he decided he wanted to come back to his hometown, Port Arthur, Texas. We don't agree on everything. I didn't want to come back. Born and raised here. Graduated from Lincoln High School in 1970, attended Lamar University, at that time Lamar College. I had no interest of coming back to Port Arthur. But I look at our age, Atlanta is for younger folks. It has a lot to offer. Not enough time in our years to enjoy. So I agreed to come back home. But I did not agree to come back home to another refinery in our backyard by our water plant that we built recently. I don't think it's gonna help us at all. So I also stand here to say we do not want you, so we don't mind you wanting to come to this area, but Port Arthur right there at that location is not for us and our people. And thank you.
Thank you. Now, I've gone through everyone who signed up. Do we have anyone else in the audience wishing to speak to this issue? Yes, ma'am. Your name, please, and your address.
Yes, my name is Janola Massapoy. My address is 4914 Waco Avenue, Port Arthur, Texas. This proposed gas expansion company is literally going to be right in my backyard. My classmate, Christopher Jacobs, he just got through speaking, and what he's saying is very right. I don't have a criminal record. I have a graduate degree, no drugs, no alcohol, no anything. And if this plant opens up in my backyard, I want to know for people that are my age group, that have done the right thing, went to school, don't have a criminal record, don't do drugs, what's the return of investment going to be? And I didn't really hear a lot of hard numbers in terms of, if we agree to do this, what is the actual return of investment going to be for citizens of Port Arthur, for people like me? And definitely for me, because I've done the work. I've done everything that I need to do to get up and go anywhere in the world. But there are young people that are coming behind me, and this is their city. So what type of job opportunities are going to be available for them? And you just cannot ignore the health concerns. I beg my mother, please come to Atlanta. I'm not going to face breast cancer or any kind of other cancer just to live with you in Port Arthur. It's not worth it. We can live in Atlanta, we can go to California, we can go anywhere. And the jobs, that the technical jobs, the skilled labor jobs that a lot of people are qualified to do, you can choose to do them anywhere in the world. So why come back to Port Arthur? And I really think, you all have the responsibility to look at the entire impact. How is this going to impact us economically? And really get the black and white. What are the numbers? Because a lot of people talk, and everything sounds good. But ultimately, how many jobs actually is it going to result to for citizens of Port Arthur? What is the actual tax amount that we're going to get after the abatement? Are we going to get it? Is there actual hard numbers on why this investment works? Because you do know, and you must realize that there's definitely health implications to having something like that being built in your backyard. And if it were your property, if you worked 40 years to pay for it, would you want this thing in your backyard? What's going to happen when property values go down? What if people are dependent on their ability to go to the bank and borrow based on the amount of equity that they have in their home? Do you think property value is going to go up or go down? Because anybody with a brain and a little bit of money is going to move out. It's not difficult, and the only people that are going to be left there are going to be the people that are too old or too poor to move. And it's not fair that you leave people that are too old and too poor. It's not right. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't build it in Port Arthur, but why right there? Right where you have people that have recently retired and that's their forever home. They can't get up and go anywhere else. Is there anywhere else along in the city that this could be feasible? And if it really is of that much financial impact that the city really needs to have it, is there anywhere else that they can place it? Because if anything goes wrong, if one thing goes wrong, property values are going to go down. Nobody is going to want to live there. And who's going to be there? People that look like me, African American people that can't go anywhere else. So please, don't take this decision lightly. Please look at all of the ramifications and please consider it and really get things in writing. If you have to go forward with it, because you all have a responsibility to look at everything, what is the actual financial impact? What happens if it doesn't go as planned? What do we have to stand on that actually makes this deal worth it for the city of Port Arthur? That's it.
Thank you. Do we have anyone who's not spoken who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, and I'm here to support you as you all have voted in your previous decision-making not to extend or not to accept the offer that was given by ZeoGas. And I encourage you to continue to hold them accountable for what they are offering. And as others have said, I am not against them being here in Port Arthur. And I have served the state of Texas and the citizens of Port Arthur and Jefferson County for 37 years in 2 different state agencies. I know what accountability is. I know being held accountable to the people. And one thing I want to say is while it was mentioned that these jobs potentially offer a good salary, the truth of the matter is that's in part because of the risk involved in working in these places. And so if the risks are sufficient enough to pay that kind of salary, the risks are sufficient enough to extend consideration to those in proximity to the same plants that are providing the risk inside the plant. And what are they going to do for the city of Port Arthur? Who provides the infrastructure, the location, and the backup so that they can make money? It's not about not having them here. Want you here. Want you here as a corporate partner. We want a win-win situation. We want everybody to benefit. We want everybody to prosper. And the property owners, thank you for paying the property tax for the property you have in Port Arthur. Thank you so much. And as though I don't see very well, I can see that there is progress being made with development from 365 southward down Memorial Boulevard. At some point in the future, not that far away, your property is going to be developed. You are going to sell your property. You are going to make money as this city attempts to diversify so that we don't find ourselves again in the situation we saw ourselves in the 80s when big oil and fossil fuels became a different industry. So we need to diversify now so that others following us will have a future in this town that people were brave enough to return to after Rita, brave enough to return to after Ike. We're here with Umberto and dealt through Edward. We are not a cowardly people. We are not people who run from a challenge. We are people who came to stand up for themselves and for the city we love so that we can be the shining light on the Gulf Coast Port Arthur needs to be. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken? Anyone else who has not spoken? Oh, I'm sorry. And let us have your name, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Tirza Henry. My sister and my father came up here. I really don't have anything much to say about Zeo Company, but I did do some research why I held off during this time, because you did say my name, that your co-founder got his degree from Lamar University, and either he couldn't find a job as well, or he ran after money, and I hope the city of Port Arthur isn't running after money, because money is not going to give us health. We can't breathe in money and it transfer and alchemize into fresh air. It's not going to happen. Clean water, it's not going to happen. And as a people, I want for you all, I have a question for you all. Everyone that's coming up here and expressing their opinions, their concerns, I pray it's not falling on deaf ears and that the decision isn't made and we're just coming up here just to feel good. And if so, and if not, please do not cement our emotions and suppress us any more than we already have been, please. And as far as refineries go, we don't need any more at all. We have plenty up and down, left and right, front door, back door, side door, golden triangle, just for another triangle. We don't need it. We don't need it. Please do not keep us prisoners of other people's ignorance and other people's greed. God gave us plenty enough resources for every man. Every man's need, but not every man's greed. My grandfather loves agriculture. You talking about this area's agriculture, or are you going to turn it into a wasteland? You're going to go back home to Katie. Do you mind us putting it in your back door? Do you mind your future kids, your future you, your future, your past, whatever? We have to build up one another for the sake of Port Arthur, for the sake of Texas. United States, that's fine, but Texas can stand on its own, and that's research proven, has been proven time and time again. Texas does not see the recession like other parts of the country. We can stand on our own. Why are we killing each other and depleting our resources instead of finding ways to grow and help? And that's it.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken, who wish to speak at this time? Anyone else who's not spoken? Bishop Turvalon, you signed up again.
Are we repetitive speakers now?
Make it short. You've spoken. I'm being
I will. I promise I would write it down, but I just forgot a couple of things. Number one is emphasizing that I detest our citizens, our city, and your decision having to be made with a gun barrel to your head. And I will, yes, did you hear me? I detest the situation with the gun barrel, take it or leave it. I detest the arrogancy, and we also have units, Corpus, they don't want it. Units in Lake Charles, they don't want it under those conditions. And I wanted to say this, the county, so what, they give it to you? The county also gave us Ford Park without our votes.
All right, don't go there.
And it keeps on costing us, ZeoGas, what's gonna happen? The same. Thank you very much. Bye.
And we have not concluded our meeting because we do have a resolution that we're going to vote on. But I do want to thank all of you all for coming. Yeah, Ms. King, we got a resolution we're going to vote on in just a second. But I do want to thank all of you all for coming out and expressing your opinions. This is your city, and we're here to serve you all. We need to know what you're thinking also, along with the people that we're negotiating with. We have no decision has been made about anything, so I do thank you all for being here. Councilmember Freeman, you had your light on. You wanted to say something.
I'm sorry. I too wanted to thank everyone for coming out today. My father died at 58 years old of esophageal cancer, worked in a refinery 30-something plus years, so I know the effects. And then to add to it, I also want to speak on behalf of my mother-in-law, who lives at 255 Linkwood in Ovesta Village. And she's not too happy about it either. You know, something that wasn't mentioned earlier is we have all kinds of pollution, but they also have noise pollution. You have flames that are so loud in that area, them burning stuff off, it sounds like a combustion engine coming through the front door of your house. You have flames that are so bright that it looks like the whole neighborhood's been lit up by 1,000,000-watt bulbs intruding into your home where you can't even sleep good at night with in the dark. So I know and I understand, I know the plight of the area, and I appreciate everyone coming before us today and expressing your feelings. I feel a lot of the same way that I've heard today. So again, thank you so much. We're gonna make the right decision. Thank you.
And I guess my hope is that we can come to some kind of decision that would be amenable to the citizens of Port Arthur and to ZeoGas. That may not be the right location, and maybe you can find another place to put it, and perhaps, I don't know what the end results will be with the negotiations with ZeoGas. That's yet to be determined, but it's obvious that the citizens don't want it there. We've seen that. So that's, for me, not up for discussion. I've got lights coming on. Councilmember Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight also. Again, I'd like to say that Dr. King said that never be afraid to do what's right, especially if it has to do with the well-being of a person or animal. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our own souls when we look the other way. I can truly say to the citizens that have shown up here today, I'm going to continue doing the right thing. And I'm not going to look the other way. I know how I got this position. It was the voice of the people. And I will continue being the voice of the people. When the people speak, it's not up to Councilman Scott to make a decision. The decision is made. The people made the decision. So again, I commend all of you for coming out here. And again, I would say to the citizens, I am your voice, and I will continue to be your voice because you put me here. Thank you.
Councilmember Williamson.
Again, thanks for coming. Just one note, if you wrote me an email and I have not yet responded to you, it's because we're changing systems, and your email is coming to me. It's not quite there yet, but it'll be there, and I will respond. As far as the jobs issue is concerned, I have 3 children. All 3 applied for jobs with area industry. None were hired. None are here. And so I get it. And I thank you for coming and pointing that out, because that vindicated us. Somebody apparently forgot that we have a problem employing Port Arthur residents in the local industry. I'm glad that you were here to help remind them.
Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, I appreciate you all coming out. All before you had no voice, you had no input. We were dealing with this issue behind closed doors. Like I said, we've been dealing with it since December. And I just got tired of fooling with it. I needed public input. Now, we have a resolution here from ZeoGas. It's a great resolution. It's something that we could consider, but we got one primary problem: the location. If you all can find a location, another location in Port Arthur, then we can apply this, because that location is going to have to go before the Planning and Zoning Board, and it's going to have to have public hearings, and it's going to have to be approved by the council. If the Planning and Zoning Board vote against it, then that's going to require 2/3 votes of this council. So that's going to be very difficult. So I appreciate you all, your consideration. If you all can find another location, I don't have a problem with it. This will be, passing this resolution will be premature as far as the location. Well, hopefully, Kurt, y'all have a lot of access, a lot of assets. Maybe y'all can consider another location, hopefully, and then y'all come back and we'll take another look. But I like your proposals and what you all plan to do. It looks good, but the location is an issue right now.
Thank you.
And oh, by the way, now, I'm not kind of a person that's dealing with hypocrisy. There was this public hearing that you all participated in, okay? That you all was allowed to participate. I requested it. A council approved it. But there was opposition against the public hearing where you all could not have any input.
And to his credit, he did request it. And I definitely voted on it because I think you should have a voice and stuff like that. So I have to give him credit at this time.
Mayor.
Wait a minute.
Mayor.
Yes, sir?
I'm going to ask you one more time, are you on medication?
You know what, I'm an honest person. I don't care what anybody says. I have to give him credit. He doesn't know how to accept that kind of stuff. And it's perfectly okay. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close only the public hearing. Councilmember Williamson.
So moved.
Councilmember Albright. Second. It's been moved and second that we close this public hearing at 8:28 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. Opposers? Bad when you can't accept a compliment. We will go to item number 4.
Item number 4.
Hold on a second, if you all don't mind, we still have an item on the agenda, unless you just choose to leave. Commissioners Senegal and Bo Alfred, if you all want to stay, you can. You're welcome in Port Arthur. Wait a minute, we can't do it now. I don't care if you are commissioner, you can't do it now. Wait until.
Has not dealt with this issue.
Wait a minute, go away. Never mind.
We can reopen the public hearing and let him talk.
Commissioner Senegal. Wait a minute, do you want us to reopen the public hearing so you can speak? Okay, hold on a second. Okay. A public hearing to discuss a potential tax abatement with ZeoGas. We're in session now at 8:29 p.m. We welcome you. I'll call you on that one.
Thank you, Mayor. I was trying to leave without any conversation. I just wanted to hear my mentor, Commissioner Alford, is here. And there's been some misinformation put out, and I think I've spoken with several council members concerning that information. ZeoGas has never approached the Commissioner's Court. I don't know where that rumor got started. I heard Councilman Lewis say that they've been meeting since December. I met with ZeoGas in early December and they disappeared. This is my precinct. I find it disrespectful that they've been meeting since December and hadn't come to me. But 100% tax abatement, 10 years, is a no vote for me. Now I'm hearing that they're trying to locate where the people don't want it. That's a second no vote. I was trying to leave without saying anything.
Oh, I wouldn't let you do that.
So I can honestly say, I don't know where the information came that the county has given them a letter of intent. I know I doze off and Commissioner Alford wakes me up sometime, but I must have not been there at that meeting. Commissioner Alford can speak for herself. Thank you.
Do you want to?
I support Commissioner Senegal, and I'm gone.
Bye. Councilmember Lewis.
Yes, I do want to deal with the resolution.
No, wait, that's coming. We're still at, reopen the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, well.
Okay, all right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion now to, No, he's spoken already. Councilmember Williamson?
Move to close.
Councilmember Albright?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we close the second public hearing at 8:31 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. Opposals? We will go to the next item, items requiring individual action, non-consent. Proposed Resolution 18375, a resolution accepting a concept proposed by ZeoGas LLC for a potential tax abatement agreement requested by Councilmember Lewis. Councilmember Albright?
Make a motion to remove.
Councilmember Lewis?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we remove proposed resolution 18375. Are there any questions? Councilmember Lewis?
Well, like I said, if they find another location, then we'll bring your proposal back. It's a good proposal, we'll bring it back. If y'all get another location, that's acceptable.
It's been moved and second that we remove proposed resolution number 18375. City Secretary, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Albright?
Yes.
Councilmember Frank?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Excuse me, you all, we're still in a meeting. If you all don't mind, we're still trying to get through the roll call. Thank you. Go ahead.
Councilmember Lewis?
Yes.
Councilmember Scott?
Yes.
Councilmember Williamson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freeman?
Yes.
Mayor Prince?
Yes.
The measure passes to remove.
Thank you. If there are no other, there are no ordinances at this time. Motion for adjournment, Councilmember Williamson?
Move to adjourn.
Councilmember Freeman?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we adjourn this meeting at 8:33 p.m. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.